Welcome to Divorce and Mortgage Strategies, brought to you by the Divorce Lending Association, where clarity meets strategy in the financial side of divorce. We don't just talk about houses, we talk about strategic solutions that protect futures. Today, host John Marroni, certified divorce lending professional, welcomes Tony Pelusi, certified professional coactive coach.
Welcome to another edition of the Divorce Resource Spotlight. I'm John Marroni, certified divorce lending professional and mortgage advisor. I've learned that successful divorce outcomes often involve the support of the right professionals, and it takes the right teams. In this series, I speak with the professionals who help individuals and families make informed financial, legal, and personal decisions during divorce. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Tony Pelusi, an attorney, certified professional coactive coach, trained mediator, court-approved parenting coordinator. Drawing on his experience as an attorney, coach, educator, and parent, Tony helps families navigate child-related conflicts, improve communication, and build healthier co-parenting relationships. Through parenting coordination, coaching, and mediation, he brings a compassionate, collaborative approach to helping parents move beyond conflict and develop practical strategies that keep their children's well-being at the center of every decision. Tony, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, John. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Tony, can you tell us a little about yourself, your background, and what led you to shift from practicing law to helping parents as a coach, mediator, and parenting coordinator?
Sure. Well, I started my practice as an attorney. I worked as a prosecutor for 7 years. And then I worked on criminal defense for about 6 or 7 years. And then I got involved in a small piece of family business litigation representing the plaintiffs. I only lasted 12 years. That litigation, 25 years on, is still going on among them. And at the end of 12 years, I realized that wasn't the life for me. That wasn't the way to live and to work. So I stopped the practice of law in the early 2000s, and I got trained as a coach in my encore career with a focus on relationships and how they work. I then, several years after that, learned about parenting coordination and found that to be a beautiful blend of the skills of a lawyer and the skills of a coach. And what really enticed me was it was an opportunity to help improve the lives of children when families are going through divorces. And often it's they're the innocent victims in some of these cases.
Right. So it sounds like you moved from resolving disputes, after the damage was done to help parents prevent more damage, and at the center of it all, of course, they're the children, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the other major difference, John, is that, as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, as a civil litigator, the system is like this. In divorce court, the system is like this. Parenting coordination is more like this.
So, all right. So I was going to ask you that, so for those who may not be familiar with it, what exactly is parenting coordinator, and when should parents consider involving one during or after the divorce?
Yeah, that's a great question. So oftentimes I wish that parents would consider using a parenting coach or a parenting coordinator before the divorce, because after going through this process, there's a lot of hurt feelings and other work that gets layered on top of the original disagreements, and it makes it a little bit more challenging. But the essence of a parenting coordinator is someone who comes in to educate parents about the toxic effects of conflict on their children and how their behaviors, if improved, will allow their children to have a childhood and not to have what are called ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, that carry on into their life ahead for decades and sometimes forever. I try and educate, I try and facilitate conversation, I try and help the parents find a mutually agreeable solution that is in the best interest of the children. And the unique part of parenting coordination is because I've been appointed by the court, if parents are unwilling or unable to find that common solution, they vest in me the authority to substitute my judgment for theirs as to what's in the best interest of the children, and to then make a binding determination that has the functional equivalency of a court order.
So sometimes when the parents are in a storm, like before even talking divorce, and they would need a parent in court, like how would someone even recognize, to say to them, hey, maybe you should talk to, someone like Tony?
That's a great question. And honestly, what it takes is self-awareness and self-acceptance. People get involved in relationships either out of love or physical attraction or whatever. And sometimes those relationships go the way that they want them to go, or they hope that they will go. Other times the relationship doesn't meet the needs of either parent or both parents, and it's time for a change. So if people start to recognize that happening, the best thing, in my opinion, that they can do is to honor all the good in the relationship and find a way to dissolve it or change it or modify it in a way that recognizes the good, particularly when there's children involved, and recognizes the responsibility of having children, and then move forward to dissolve it in a way that is appreciative of the best of the relationship, as opposed to let's go get our surrogates and put them in a ring and fight it out.
Yeah. So, which leads me to
you laugh because you see the results of it in your work, right?
100%. Oh yeah. Yes.
I mean, one of the things, from your perspective, and I share this, is if parents sat down and worked collaboratively with lawyers and brought you in as a professional, as a neutral professional, you're not working for dad, you're not working for mom, you come in and say, okay, here's your financial picture. Here's some of the ways that you can handle it. This is better than this. This is better than that. Let's work together and find a solution. How much better would they be? How much better would we all be?
Oh, 100%. And that's exactly what I do. I give them options and different strategies. And then at the very least, they may not like any of the options, but they actually feel better knowing that there are options and no one's forced.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because sometimes an option is do nothing, and now they know that that's the best, so, and like I know every divorce journey, is unique. So in your case, I can ask you this question. If you could give like one heads up piece of advice to someone just beginning this process, like what would it be?
Yeah. Take a breath. Chill out. Stop listening to the Greek choir, your friends, your parents, all the other people who have opinions about your life, right? And sit down and have an honest conversation with your partner. Hey, this isn't working for me. Here's why. Is it working for you? What can we do? Is it time to change? Is it something we can fix? If not, how are we going to dissolve this in a way that respects what we had? Actually have that conversation. And in the course of it, that's a tough conversation to have in the beginning anyway. Then you start to look at, so what type of resources are out there? How can we navigate the white waters of this change? Because what happens is, John, this part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain, shuts down and the emotional part of the brain takes over. And you can't operate both effectively at the same time. And when you're making emotional decisions, like in situations like this, they're not often the best ones.
So when parents are like in the middle of this hurt, anger, uncertainty, like how do you help them, step back and see things through their children's eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a lot of resources. Many of them appear on my website page. They're there for free that people can have at any time. I spend a lot of time learning what each parent's story is, what each parent's perception of where things are, and then working to kind of introduce the idea of flexible thinking and broadening the lens, if you will, opening the aperture on the camera so that instead of just seeing this, you start to see this. And under most circumstances, when, like you said, when people are presented with choices or a broader perspective, I have a lot of faith in people. I think they make the right choice for themselves. May not be what I agree with, but it's the right choice for them. And then I help them navigate, okay, how do you need to change communication? What structures would work? What if you did this instead of that? You let something go, you add something new in, and you learn by trying and failing and winning and losing and living with that acceptance.
All right. So, I mean, you pretty much touched upon it, but in terms of like what practical steps can parents take, to communicate more effectively and keep their focus on what's best for the children, would you say?
That's great. So I focus on three communication techniques. One of them is called nonviolent communication. And it's a really simple practice. I notice this. I've identified a feeling of that. I have a need for, and then a question. Will you? Could you? Can we? That's one. And that's a great way to open a conversation. John Gottman talks in terms of it being a soft opening as opposed to a harsh, hey, this thing isn't working, we got to fix it. How about if we approach it with a soft opening and kind of have that conversation? That's one thing. The other thing that's very important for parents to understand is using the process called BIF, brief, informative, firm, and friendly. You take the emotion out of the communication and just transfer the essential facts. And that helps calm things down. It's not, hey, you always are late, you've never done this. You take all that out and just get to the precise message. Can I pick up, Joey at 5:30 instead of 6 today? Make it simple. And the other thing is to have a structure by which you make proposals to each other. And I'll make a proposal to you and you ask me questions about it, and then I'll answer the questions. And if that doesn't work, you'll make a proposal and I'll ask questions. And we go back and forth without arguing about the why or trying to figure out what's behind it, but just looking at the facts, kind of like what you do with money, right? Let's just look at the facts and see what is available.
Yeah, I mean, and then you remind them, you say, look, I mean, you both look so lovely on your wedding day, remember till death do you part, and I'll tell people too, I say, listen, there may or may not be life after death, but there's most certainly life after divorce. And what do you want that life to be?
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more. And the key is, as you said, these are challenging conversations to have. Having a neutral, having a third person, another professional in the mix who is objective and not involved, like the family and the Greek choir, gives the process a greater likelihood of succeeding and producing the result that ultimately I think both parents want. They want to move on from this painful situation to a better one, right?
Yeah.
And it's always frustrated me that we as a society in a court system decide that the best way to get the most sacred promise two people can make to each other resolved is by having them get their surrogates in a ring. I've often said to my clients, what if marriage wasn't looked at in terms of failure or a broken home or a broken marriage or fighting with lawyers, and instead we allowed the marriage to be a place where we learn how to be better versions of ourselves going forward, either in this relationship or in another.
I love that. So let me ask you, you worked many of these cases. Can you share like one memorable case you worked on that really impacted you and changed the way you think about helping families through divorce?
Yeah, yeah. It's a sad one, John. I'll be honest with you. I was working with this family. They lived in two different parts of the state. There was like an hour and a half commute between the two homes that the child lived in, and some issues came up. Sometimes I always deal with parents. Sometimes I deal with children. In this case, I found it necessary to have a conversation with the young person, and he was a 15-year-old child. So met him with one parent, met him with the other parent. We sat down. I learned what I needed to learn from the child about their perception of their life. And then at the end of every case, when I'm talking with a child, I will ask them this question: what is it that you and I have discussed that you give me permission to share with your parents, hopefully to help make your situation better?
Yeah.
And this young person looked at me and said, Tony, please don't share one thing. And I said, I'm surprised. You had some great insight. You seem to be a very mature person. And I could see some benefit in having your parents hear what you have to say. He says, look, I'm 15 years old. I've learned through many, many years of suffering how to manage this relationship. If you tell either parent anything that I said, my life is going to be hell. And I've only got 3 more years of doing this, because when I'm 18, I'm done with both of them. I
Wow.
cried.
Yeah.
It killed
God,
me.
that's fine. I've got this figured out. I can handle it myself for the next 3 years. And
Yep.
I'm done with both of them. Wow.
See you later. Yeah.
That, my God. So he developed some survival skills.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we're all capable of doing that when we're put in that situation. But why would you want to put your children in such a toxic situation that that's the lesson they learn, as opposed to how to resolve conflict respectfully, how to be in relationship and work together? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, so let me ask, like, what did that young man teach you about the impact parental conflict that can have on children?
Yeah, that ACEs are real. Adverse childhood experiences are real and meaningful. This kid was so stuck and had been betrayed by a therapist, quite honestly, an
Right.
unskilled therapist. He said to me, I'll never go to therapy again because they can't be trusted. I says, look, I'm going to ask you this. You're trusting me, and I'm going to do it. The therapist you had didn't do right by you. Don't throw all therapists out, because at some point it's going to help you to work through some of these issues, and I hope you will. And he's like, well, I'll think about it. And I was like, okay, thank you. That's better than I'm never going to go to a therapist again in my life.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. So one thing I've learned is that divorce is not a process anyone should navigate alone. Like, so from your perspective, what should someone look for when building their divorce team, and how can parenting coordinators, divorce attorneys, mediators, therapists, and other professionals work together to create better outcomes for both parents and children?
That's a great question. And I'm going to say this with this disclaimer. I am a lawyer. Okay. I was trained as a lawyer. There are a reasonable number of colleagues out there who manage this approach when they do divorce work. I do my best work by the hour.
Oof.
And that's a self-serving, selfish, and unethical, in my opinion, approach. Lawyers have a skill set here. Lawyers have to understand that and clients need to understand that the lawyer is the servant to the client, who's the master. You do this lawyer part. Who do we need to handle the emotional part? Who do we need to handle the financial part? Who do we need to handle the child rearing part? Let's build that team and do it effectively from the beginning. Now, if you have lawyers who are of that mindset, they're going to already have those professionals lined up, and in a very efficient and effective way, they're going to be able to set the stage for how the divorce even begins, whether it's done by one parent or both. Even if one parent does it, that is going to set the stage for a much better result than going with the scorched earth. Don't worry, I'm going to get you everything, blah, 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 because all that's going to do is inflame the other side and, ignite the hellacious litigation that is all too often what people see and experience.
Yeah. So like when they're trying to hire a professional, like at that stage, I mean, they're in a storm. They got everything coming at them, right? So
Yep.
like are there any obvious like red flags that someone should look for or pause before hiring a professional during divorce?
Well, you used it. Pause. Remember that breath, right? Breathe. Okay. This is an important decision. Looks like we've had our conversation. It looks like we're going to have to go the divorce route. Start reaching out, not to family and friends. Look at professional organizations. Look at the Mass Association of Guardians ad Litem. Look at the Mass Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. Look at the Mass Association of Family Mediators. Look at collaborative law. Find people who are out there who can help you navigate this in a respectful and effective manner. And if you start there, as opposed to when you get on the phone, sure, no problem, that was terrible, we can certainly fix that problem. I guarantee you the judge will. When you start seeing that stuff, that's when you say, thank you very much, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, all right, that's great. And Tony, thank you for sharing your insights today. And one thing I hope listeners take away from these conversations is that while a marriage may end, a co-parenting relationship often continues for many years. Having the right support system and the right professionals involved can make an enormous difference, not only for parents, but especially for children. Now, Tony, if someone would like to learn more about your practice or connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
So I mentioned my website earlier. It's pretty straightforward. It's my name, TonyPelusi.com. And there, in addition to there being a bunch of resources that are available for free, there's also some videos that talk about parenting coordination and what that's like. And then there's also a contact form. What I ask is for people to fill in the contact form completely. Give me your name and contact information. Give me your co-parent's name and contact information. If you want a response to just you, say so in the comment. Please only respond to me. Otherwise, I'm going to respond to both parents, and I'm going to offer them a complimentary session to sit down and say, okay, what do you guys need? If I can't fulfill that need, here are some people that might, and here are some options for you to consider. And hopefully we can find a way to work together. And if not, we'll find a way to at least have your needs met in a respectful and appropriate way so that you can leave. You start in this adversarial place, but you leave with a respectful, business-like relationship designed to make sure that your children are having their best interests served.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's great that you've made so many resources freely available, because many people don't even know that, parenting coordinators or co-parent coaches exist until they're already in a crisis.
Right.
So, okay. As we wrap up, if you could leave parents with one message about putting their children first during divorce, what would that be?
No matter what you think, no matter how you behave when the children are in your physical presence, the kids know. The kids will pick up on the energetic and the emotional state of their parents. And when they sense that stress, you're putting them in the middle. And that's the worst place that kids can be. They love both their parents. They want to be with both their parents. There's no need to have them feel like they have to be loyal to one over the other. So please be mindful of what you say, how you say it, and your emotional state when you're in this terrible whitewater state of being, when you're in the presence of and dealing with your children.
Wow, I think that's a beautiful way to end our conversation. And thank you for sharing your insights and more importantly, for the work you're doing to help families navigate one of life's most important transition with greater understanding and compassion. Thank you again for joining me, and thank you to everyone watching and listening. If you found this conversation helpful, please follow for future Divorce Resource Spotlight episodes, where we'll continue introducing professionals who help individuals and families make informed decisions during and after divorce. I'm John Marroni. Thanks for watching.
And thanks for doing this, John. It's great service.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on Divorce Mortgage Strategies, powered by the Divorce Lending Association. If today's conversation brought you clarity, insight, or inspiration, we encourage you to subscribe and share this episode with others in your circle. For more resources, or to connect with a certified divorce lending professional in your area, visit divorcelendingassociation.com. And be sure to download the free Divorce Strategy Hub mobile app for tools, education, and support designed to guide you through the financial side of divorce. Until next time, remember, in divorce, the mortgage isn't the problem, it's the plan.